Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever it may be. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what's on tonight's edition of the Klown Hour podcast. We're going to talk about Deion Sanders' impact on Jackson State University football. They're 3-0, and what could that possibly mean for HBCUs everywhere, as well as preview the NCAA tournament. March Madness, y'all, is here, and if anything pops up, we'll probably talk about that too. So one more thing. Please subscribe to the channel. Click on the subscribe button. You'll be happy, and I'll be happy. So until then, let's get it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. This is Scott Burks and Dwayne Nash, and this is the Klown Hour podcast. Speaking of Dwayne Nash, please check him out on Yard/HBCU Sports, who raps about all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. And also check out his great work on herosports.com, raps about all things FCS athletics as it pertains to HBCUs.
Oh, and don't forget, Kiss Me, I'm Irish.
And look, I got nightmares from St. Patrick's Days past as a kid because I hardly wear anything green or own anything green. So, when, old school, they go pinch you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, of course, no one's going to do it as an adult because you get socked in the face. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. What's your grill? You try to accost me in a manner that I don't like, most definitely.
There you go, missing a few teeth along the way. As for the boring stuff, check out my sports blog at the Klown Times. It's Klown spelled with K at www.theklowntimes.net. And you can check me on Facebook as well, whether on your laptop, smartphone, desktop, wherever you are. Just type in the Klown Times. You'll find us there cutting up, having fun as well. And one more thing, two more things. A, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. You'll be glad you did. We'll be glad you did. And it'll be a win-win all around. And last but not least,
get the merch.
Get the merch. CafePress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. The actual address and link will be in the description bar after we upload this to YouTube, and you will find that stuff there as well. So let's get into it, man. We got a cool show tonight, a little bit different.
Yes.
Even though the NBA is just starting to come back around after All-Star breaks, we're going to focus on college athletics for a bit. And given that the FCS world is doing this thing in the spring, a big story right now, D is close to it. I'm a big fan of it. HBCU athletics, namely SWAC football, Southwest Athletic Conference. And while we're talking about the SWAC, one coach, Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Coach Prime, Jackson State University Tigers football. They're 3-0 right now.
Yeah.
They're coming off of a good win against Mississippi Valley State, 43-7, which was broadcast on ESPN 2 on the Sunday afternoon. That, of course, comes on the heels of a big win at Grambling State the previous week. And D, I know we've kind of mentioned this offline in passing. You're much closer to HBCU athletic sports world than I am. I'm trying to get better at it. But the point is that being that this game was originally supposed to be at ESPN 3, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
And then it got bumped up to ESPN 2 on a Sunday afternoon. Now, I think that's cool. I think that's like hype because apparently ESPN is buying into the Coach Prime hype as well, especially coming off a good win, actually a great win over Grambling State the previous week. And of course, they didn't disappoint. They beat a team that should be the Mississippi Valley State, but it was an ass whooping, as you and I would expect. But maybe the brass ESPN was like, wow, they were still probably wild by it because, again, it's Coach Prime administering an ass whooping.
It's two things.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's Coach Prime, and it's against an in-state rival, the Mississippi Valley State.
Correct, yeah.
So you had those two things, regardless of how these two teams have looked against one another in recent years. That's just enough right there to go ahead and get you. Well, I'm going to say a couple of things about this that some people might not like, right? And I'm about to also name drop too.
Go ahead.
First and foremost, the whole concept of HBCU football and it being televised, or at least televised more, has been an issue for a very long time. Very long time. The first time, the earliest date that I remember having a conversation with someone about this, about it not being televised and it being an issue, was with one Mike Wilbon of ESPN. So those who are unfamiliar, Mike Wilbon, before he, of course, became the Mike Wilbon that we know, used to be a beat reporter here in D.C. for the Washington Post, where he covered the Howard University Bison, especially with their football program, right? So he was there at the Washington Post when they were covering that fantastic season in 1993, led by one Jay Walker. So those who are familiar with ESPN know him as the commentator there. But of course, before he was that, he was a well-known quarterback, especially in the HBCU ranks there at Howard. Went on to play pro ball for a couple of years before eventually retired.
And people don't realize how good he was.
Oh,
people don't realize how good he was.
Yeah. He was a monster.
Yeah.
And of course, ruined A&T's homecoming in 1993. Continues to ruin.
He's proud of that, by the way.
He's super proud about that. Oh yeah. Because of course, A&T was the team for them to beat that year. Yeah. Because A&T was the other undefeated team that year. So they were the team to beat, and to do so at A&T's homecoming in overtime. And I think he was the one that ran it in, or either threw a pass to Flea Harrell, who was now an assistant at Jackson State. See how this goes full circle.
Yeah.
It's of course big time for him, and especially with A&T being the success that it currently is, it's great for them to continue to remind Aggies that, hey, homecoming 93, I came down there and I did that. So yeah, he actually wrote an article back in 93 about how limited exposure the football program got, and they were undefeated and was probably the only undefeated football team in DC at the time. And was like, dude, why can't they get on TV?
And this is Wilbon, right?
Yeah, right. And they even have their own network, only to discover that Howard's network is public access, only used for the arts, and the only way that you can get on is through getting an arts grant. So that's back in 93, right? Fast forward to now, after HBCU sports has been seen on BET and people keep begging for it to come back on BET. Let me look at the camera. What's the camera? Camera's right here?
Yep, it's right there. That's your camera.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Stop begging for it. It's not happening. It also appeared on the fledgling MBC, which is Evander Holyfield's old network, where they used to show games during the early 2000s. Of course, Aspire shows it now, and of course, they have a deal with ESPN right now, where they show like a couple of games a week. And they've actually increased that as time has gone on to show a couple of games on TV and a couple of games on ESPN3, their digital package, which you receive online. Now, like I said, name dropping again, in 2016, I had a conversation with the then president of ESPN, John Skipper. Yes, thank you for helping me out with that, because I was about to say wrong name. So I had a conversation with John Skipper in November 2016. And we had a conversation about HBCU sports. And it's interesting that you're touching on this, because I'm actually in the midst of writing an article about this one thing right now. So that's why all of this is very, very fresh. Had a conversation with Skipper. Skipper is from North Carolina, if you didn't know, right outside of Greensboro. 2, he attended the University of North Carolina with
John Swofford.
Well, not just John Swofford, but also with former A&T football head coach Rob Broadway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
They go way back. Okay, yeah.
So they go way back. And so with him being from an area outside of Greensboro and going to school with Broadway, he is very, very familiar with A&T and HBCU sports. Even hit me with an Aggie pride, threw me off a little bit, right? So we're having a conversation about HBCU sports and it being televised on ESPN. To kind of condense that conversation, one, we talked about their appearance on Thursday night, where he told me then not to be concerned about the optics of low attendance. Their thing is, as long as they have programming, they're going to continue to, and as long as the conference wants to do it, they're still going to continue to air these games on television, right?
Right. It's all about
content. And if they were looking to expand what they wanted to do with HBCU sports in the future, including adding Division II sports. Fast forward 5 years, unfortunately, Skipper's no longer there.
Right.
But it looks like what they want to do has been taking a slow progress since then, right?
Right.
They've expanded the amount of games that they air because it used to be just limited to the small package that they would air on ESPNU, which was a Thursday night game and a Saturday evening, Saturday night game on ESPNU every week. That is now expanded where they have a couple more games on ESPN3 and still that one game or two games on ESPNU. Fast forward to COVID times. It is March 2021. I'm gonna be realistic, right? They were going to show football and HBCU football anyway. Right. They already had a package.
Correct. Yes.
The thing is, this is a perfect storm for Jackson State. I say that because there's no MEAC. There's rarely any MEAC football. South Carolina State, Delaware State, and Howard, and they don't play on a weekly basis. With that said, there's no A&T football.
That's right.
Who was the bell cow for them?
That's the powerhouse, yes.
Exactly, for the past couple of years. Where's the camera at? I don't care if you like it or not. I'm saying it, I'm saying it again. A&T was a bell cow for HBCU football for the past couple of years because of based on what they did in the Celebration Bowl. Hate me or no, it's the truth. Deal with it. Skipper told me himself back in 2016, and it became more prevalent as the years went on. Deal with it. Number two, Alcorn State is no longer playing spring football. The team that has basically won the SWAC for the past couple of seasons.
Yep.
So you have no MEAC, you have no A&T, you have no Alcorn State. The new shiny toy, of course, now is Deion Sanders.
Yep.
Why not? He was most definitely going to get televised. And before they made alterations to the schedule, they already had 5 of their games that were going to be aired on some sort of way of ESPNU, ESPN3, or ESPN2. Now, with them starting out 2-0 against teams who were, ironically enough, playing their very first game of the season, of course you got this shiny new toy who's undefeated and averaging 40 points a game against teams. They're going to move you to ESPN2 because what? There is nothing else to air.
Exactly. Repeat that again for the masses. There's nothing else going on.
It is selection. It was Selection Sunday.
Yes.
The conference tournaments that were going on for the men was the AAC.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten.
That's a Fox product. Yeah.
That's a Fox product.
Yes.
Yo, ESPN needed something and something big to put on their screen. If it wasn't going to be JSU and Alcorn and A&T was playing, it was going to be one of them, especially if they had a marquee matchup. Deal with it. But what I'm not going to do is sit here and hate on the shine that JSU is getting. I am applauding them. I am happy for them. I don't want, it's just that some Jackson State fans are getting big-headed about this whole thing.
Of course they are.
And are puffing themselves up.
Johnny-come-lately fans, yeah.
Yes. I mean, first and foremost, let's not get it mistaken. Jackson State University has huge history in HBCU
Walter
football.
Payton.
Yes, Walter Payton, Jackie Slater.
Yep.
They have a huge resume as it pertains to HBCU football. We're not going to get that mistaken here. But they've been trash for the past, since 2013. Let's be real here. They've been trash since then. Matter of fact, they've gone through, 3 coaches over the past 9 years? Yes. Yes, you stop acting like that didn't happen. That happened, dude. So, yes, you have this shiny new toy in Deion Sanders. They're winning. They're a prominent program. Matter of fact, let's also not get this mistaken either. They last year, or 2019, they had the highest attendance in FCS football. So their fans come out to see them play.
And you saw the fans this past week, even though it was reduced capacity, there was a lot of people out there.
They were there.
A lot of people in the lower bowl.
Yeah, so for all of you out there who are calling me a hater, dude, I know what I'm talking about. I see it. I know it. I understand what I'm talking about. Yes, your squad has been trash. Now they're good. They're the shiny new toy. Somebody was going to be it. It is your turn. Don't drop this ball because we don't know whose turn is going to be in the fall. It's projectedly going to be Jackson State's, but you got Florida A&M coming to the conference.
That's right.
You got Bethune-Cookman coming to the conference. You got Alcorn State coming to the conference. So yes, they're going to and they're going to take away from some of that attention that Jackson State, especially if Jackson State loses to Florida A&M come week 1. God, dude,
that's a week 1 matchup.
Jackson State, y'all better not lose to Florida A&M at the Citrus Classic. Got the Orange Blossom Classic come week 1. Yes, that is week 1.
Oh, wow.
Week 1. Welcome to the SWAC, Florida A&M. That is their first game. The Orange Blossom Classic. I think that's the name of it. Please don't hate me. Organizers of that game. Because I'm in the process of helping them out promoting this game. But yes, that is week 1 for them. And it's going to be a test for both programs. So yes, if that happens, if they lose, who's to say who's going to be the flavor of the month for ESPN? But yes, that's what happens, dude. If Grambling was winning, they will probably be the flavor.
Of course, that's a brand. Like I said, that's a brand. Grambling's a brand.
But see, that's the thing that makes it interesting to me too, right? Mm-hmm. It was a head scratcher to me that Jackson State had more games than Southern this spring, and Southern is the Eastern Division champions. I'm like, how does that work? I'm sorry, the Western Division champions. Champion. Mm-hmm. How does that work? But hey, it worked, and it's working, and they're getting more attention. And because of the fact that there's nothing else on ESPN to show, yes, they're going to elevate their games. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen this week coming when they play their matchup against Alabama State.
Yeah, Alabama State, yeah.
And they have to go on the road, and they have to go up against the NCAA tournament, NBA basketball. That was another thing that saved them the week prior. And I think, and last week, there was no NBA game on around 2:00, 3:00 when that game came on with Jackson State. So yeah, they legit had no one to compete against. Now you got big dogs to compete against. I'm not hoping for the worst. I'm just saying, hey, you had it easy without having things not going up against you. Now you will. I'm hoping that the fans will watch. I will be watching.
I'll be watching too.
Yeah, so yeah, you already got me. I'm just saying, for those who normally wouldn't watch, would you have them? And like I said, just enjoy this, dude. Hey. Enjoy it because it's big. But the thing is, and that's another thing that I'm touching on. I'm gonna touch on it real short because I'm writing a whole article on this. Mm-hmm. I know the commissioner there at the SWAC wants to have more televised games. I'm like, dog, can y'all focus on getting a network first?
Yeah.
Can you do that first and not be afraid of having games digitally broadcasted? Because it is the future. Mm-hmm. Cable is very antiquated.
Yes, it is. So I'm trying to convince my wife to cut the fucking cord because I'm tired of paying so much money for cable. I stream almost everything. The only thing I watch live is ESPN, and guess what? There's the ESPN app for that.
There's an app for that. Yes.
There's an app for every damn thing. So yes. I don't hell, even some of the Real House Gang series that come on Bravo TV, Bravo has an app.
Bravo has an app. Everybody has an app. And if they don't have an app, they have a deal with another streaming entity where they're able to stream it there. So there are ways around it. Now I understand there's some other live things that you might want to see that you're not going to be able to see streaming, but there are ways to do that too. So there are ways around it, and everyone's not necessarily watching program television or cable television, and a lot of people are cutting the cord. Yeah. So the fact that he's championing for this is a head scratcher to me. And the fact that you're championing for this and you're already as a conference sharing a weekly spot with the MEAC is already good enough for you, in my opinion, because, okay, let's put it into perspective. The ACC, the SEC, and the Big Ten are getting 2 games max on broadcast television. The rest of their stuff is being shown where? On their digital networks.
That's right. ACC Extra, SEC, I forgot what their streaming network is called.
ACC network. There's a Big 10 network. Yep. There's a Big 12 network. There's an SEC network. Everybody on the FCS level has a network except for the SWAC and the MEAC.
Yeah.
And you're fighting to get on more television spots, and you don't even have a platform to broadcast all of your sports.
Yeah. Digital is where it's at. People don't understand that. People are so fixated on, most people are fixated on a linear channel.
Yes.
All because the Big Ten had to force it to do it eons ago. But everything is.
No, Scott, they have it, and yes, they're on cable, but it's also streaming too. And the other thing is, in order for you to get that network, you have to have the extra sports package.
That's right.
You have to have the extra sports package. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay additional in order to get it. So the thing that you are attempting to avoid to do, which is having people pay for additional streaming, the models that you would want to attempt to follow are already doing that. Why aren't you attempting to do that? The blueprint already exists. I say that on this show, and I say it everywhere often. If a blueprint already exists and it's already working, follow it. Why are you trying to use the old way to do something, and why are you trying to do something completely different? Use what works.
Yeah.
It works. It's successful. Try to do that. Let's get on that first. But Clinton, please, if you're listening to me right now, please, I'm begging you. I know you want more, but what we're doing right now is good and is comparable to what some of the what is it called? Not the Power 5, but the other 5 conferences.
Group of 5.
The Group of 5 conferences. Yeah. So like the AAC, the MAC, all of them, they're doing
especially the MAC.
Yes, they're doing 1 to 2 games a week on ESPN. And so if you're doing that, you're doing fine. So in between 1 to 2, you're doing good. So anything more than that, you're asking for an egregious thing, especially when you're not focusing or even getting more of your content broadcasted anyway.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. You touched, and this is a gold mine, a potential gold mine that's sitting there right now. It's a potential gold mine. Because check this out. I was going to say this earlier. Guess who Jackson State plays after this coming weekend? They play host to Southern University.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Brand, powerhouse, at your place.
Yep.
Again, the shiny new toy, as you said. Jackson State takes care of business at Alabama A&M this weekend. Excuse me. You got a 4 Alabama State. I'm sorry. You got apologies to Alabama A&M and Alabama State alums. Don't shoot me, please. I know it's a big rivalry. My bad.
Huge rivalry.
But anyway, the point is, if you get it, if Jackson State takes care of business the way people think they're supposed to take care of business, you got an undefeated team hosting the brand. You think ESPN might going to jump on top of that?
Oh, they're jumping on top of it. They're already jumping on it. If they haven't made a decision yet, but they're going to. They're going to. Again, I mean, unless they can find programming elsewhere, they're
right. And this, and that's the thing. You got a shiny new toy hosting the brand. This should be the SWAC's commissioner's dream come true on the smaller scale.
It very could be the preview to the SWAC championship later on this spring.
Right. So
that's if Southern holds up their end of the bargain.
Exactly.
But that's another conversation for another time.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries. But the point is, I'm glad I said the point is, as it relates to when we mentioned Deion Sanders earlier, even though I mean it's crazy because you think it's not fair to Southern, Grambling, they're the bit of brands for since the cows came home. But if it takes having a guy like Deion, Coach Prime, bringing the spotlight to a storied HBCU football league that's SEC-like as far as history, fanfare, hype. If folks don't know, you gotta know. You better know about the SWAC. So if it takes that guy He may be around for only 2 years, but if it takes that guy to bring eyes to a storied conference like the SWAC with the brands, you got another brand at FAMU in the fall, so you got at least 3 brands. Some people may say Alcorn State is a brand too, like on their success. So you have all that coming in the fall. Jackson State's first opponent out the box is FAMU, Florida A&M. I'm telling y'all, that's why I said we had a little roundtable with Previn and them earlier, is that if you, again, I think Deion Sanders, if he plays this right and the circumstances plays out as they hope, it's going to be a huge, huge boon for the SWAC, and maybe residual effects for like maybe maybe people would tune in to or take notice in other leagues like CIAA or the SEAC, for example. Maybe it'll lead to that trickle down effect. But the SWAC is sitting in the catbird seat like a mug.
Yeah, they are.
They really are. I mean, for them to get shine over North Dakota State and all those conferences, what?
Exactly, right. And see, that's the thing, that they know ESPN, as much as people like to say that they don't, they understand what they have in HBCUs. Now, do I want them to have more programming? I do, but I also want the conferences to want to have more programming too.
Right.
And you don't have to necessarily use ESPN in order to get more programming. That's something that I'm writing about right now. But yeah, first and foremost, let me go ahead and correct if I said it wrong the first time. It is the Orange Blossom Classic, which is going to be played that first week down in Florida. But yeah, this is for them to control right now. And with the slow implosion of the MEAC, A&T now moving over to the Big South, Tennessee State is over there in the OVC.
Yep.
It's the SWACs to control in Division I sports right now as it pertains to HBCUs. This is your opportunity to do what you need to do in order to go ahead and continue to build and create a media brand for your conference. And all you're asking for outwardly is more TV time. Dude, I understand. Like I said before, I understand where he's going with this, but that's not the way to do it. It very well is an antiquated process. But I'm also congratulating them on the moves that's being made right now for the spring. I can do both. I can congratulate you for the moves that are being made, and also push you to want to have more.
Right.
So
you can't get left behind. You cannot get left behind in this day and age. It's all about dollars and cents. If you don't have the dollars, you ain't gonna have the sense to. If you don't have the sense to make the dollars, what you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly. So yeah, and they're already behind as is. Yeah. So I just need them to go ahead and start catching up and understand that. So
all right, let me ask you this before you transition to the NCAA tournament. Look at your crystal ball again. You followed this very, very closely. And we're probably going to have some of our boys or maybe Lanice on this show, who's a fellow A&T alum, to discuss this in a deeper and maybe sooner than we think. Maybe the weekend of Southern and Jackson State. But anyway, let me ask you this. Look at your crystal ball. I would say 5 years, but let's just say 3 for now. Where do you see this? When I say HBCU sports, I mean the SWAC. Where do you see SWAC football as it pertains to media exposure, television dollars? Where do you see them as a conference in 3 years?
I mean, they're going to be most definitely the premier conference in HBCU football on the FCS level, most definitely. Hell, that's going to be the case come September. I mean, it's already the case now.
Yeah, sure. Right.
It's already the case now. It's only going to get worse. Unless the MEAC makes some drastic changes, and there's going to have to be some huge splash-worthy changes. and I don't see it as of right now.
Right, it's too soon.
It is. As it pertains to football broadcasting, I don't think, especially in 3 years, because if you'd have asked me this in 2016, I probably would have said the same thing. I would have hoped for more, but I don't necessarily see them broadcasting more than what they're currently doing on broadcast TV. Now, my hope is that all of their football games are aired, be it on broadcast television or digitally on someone's network that is not Flow Sports. Sorry, Flow Sports. I'm sorry to call you out. But yeah, you are the odd man in this situation as it pertains to sports. And yeah, that's an additional charge, that an additional service that people probably aren't going to be willing and interested to pay for, right? Right. Because if you're like me and you like Disney products and you like Marvel products and you like Star Wars, you already got Disney Plus. And with Disney Plus comes ESPN Plus. So yes, that already comes in that package. So the whole complaint about not wanting to have people to pay for another subscription kind of goes out of the window for people like me, because I'm already getting a Disney Plus, which means I already have ESPN Plus, which means if your stuff is there, I'm going to be able to watch. So yeah, my hope is that all of their games are broadcasted on either one of those platforms, because it wasn't in 2019. It just about is this year, because one, the reduced schedule for the SWAC, and two, once again, like I said before, it's not much more to broadcast. But yeah, my hope is that someone gets wise and gets some sort of deal where that starts to happen. And hopefully that starts leading to having all of the SWAC basketball games broadcast somewhere, potentially tennis, track, bowling, and then a lot of the other non-revenue sports. Yeah. But yeah, first and foremost, if we can get all of the revenue generating sports broadcasted, all of them broadcasted somewhere, that will be a wonderful start. And hopefully that leads to something else.
When do you see that? When, like, you may have touched on it already, but I'm just thinking just out loud here.
That's fine.
When you say that, when you say like have all the revenue sports, the basketball, the football and the basketball, I think it depends on, the spring will tell us a lot. If they put more SWAC games, it may be all Jackson State games, but if they put more SWAC games on ESPN2 or ESPN2, because that's like I don't want to say the pinnacle, but you get one. Well, you kind of get one.
Because it's above ESPNU. Let's be real. It's above.
Yeah, it's way above ESPNU. And the point is that's a status.
Yeah,
that's status. So that's like status earned. So we see more of these games, more of the SWAC games this spring on ESPN2. ESPN3, that's great. But ESPN2, that's a status thing. So if we see more of them on ESPN2, then I would think this will probably happen sooner rather than later. Maybe another year, 2 at the most, if it gains more traction. Because again, if you see more of these games with the shiny new toy, Coach Prime and Jackson State, especially if they keep winning, then you start to. Then I guess the trickle down will happen with other squads in the conference and get the brands again: Southern, Grambling, FAMU, Alcorn State. Those are your brands. And then you have the shiny new toy, which has a storied history, but they've been trashed, to your point, the last X amount of years. So if you get the shiny new toy back to prominence, if you will, with Coach Prime leading the way, to go along with these brands, the brands I mentioned earlier, I'm telling you, man, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I think maybe 2 years tops. I'll give it 2 years if it gains traction from the spring into the fall. If it gains traction, SWAC could be. The SWAC can. All they have to do is don't screw it up.
Oh yeah, that's all they have to do. Now, like I said, it for the past, especially since the advent of the Celebration Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever team has won the Celebration Bowl was the one that would get more TV time. And the teams that were either good enough to compete for or came in second place or lost the Celebration Bowl, I should say. I shouldn't say second place, but lost the Celebration Bowl. They got more TV time too. So the likes of Grambling, Alcorn, A&T, and North Carolina Central all became what's the word I'm looking for here? They all gained benefits from playing in that game because people who watch bowl games and non-traditional fans that watch the Celebration Bowl were like, hey, these teams are good. I'm going to want to watch them someplace else.
That's right. They're good.
So
That's
it gave them an opportunity to do so.
Yeah. That's the key, the operative word. They were good. They were great teams. And that helped to get those eyes from the casual fan base, sports fan. And the Celebration Bowl, a lot of people banged on it, man. Bagged on it a little bit. I thought that did wonders for HBCU athletics, but especially the SWAC and the MEAC. You know, I thought it did. I thought it was a great exposure.
But because it has done wonders for the conferences.
Yes.
Like I said before, attendance numbers have gone up for both for Grambling and A&T with them winning those games. So they've benefited everyone that has won that game. Well, technically it's only been two teams, A&T and Grambling. They've all benefited from winning those games.
Yep. And even the ones who participated too, you know, I mean, because Alcorn has a great fan base, and they're obviously not playing in the spring, but the point is that they've gone some more fan support. You know, it's Central's garnered fan support. So, you know, I know we're beating this dead horse. It's not a dead horse, but the point is it's exciting to us because we have degrees from HBCUs, the same HBCU, North Carolina A&T. And so we just want to see, now that all these schools are getting the shine now, especially with this social climate that we've been in the last couple of years, well, since last year, I should say, since George Floyd's murder. I'm just saying, this is a shift. We're starting to see a shift. It may not be grand.
Yeah.
It may not be, it's obviously not going to be SEC-like. May not even be ACC-like. But the point is, it's exposure.
It is.
And exposure leads to expansion, to borrow a quote from Fred Taylor from the I Am Athlete podcast.
But that's more of a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And not as a cultural thing as it pertains to race, but a cultural thing as it pertains to sports and what region you live in. Because of the fact that in most cases, when you're growing up, you see certain teams on TV, that's who you gravitate to. Right. So if you're not seeing Grambling, if you're not seeing Southern on TV, and you're not seeing Alcorn or Mississippi or Mississippi Valley State or Jackson State, but yet you're seeing Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina, whomever, that's who you gravitate to. And as you grow up, you end up spending money on these institutions, buying their apparel, even if you didn't go. So, you know, it's just only because HBCUs aren't in, excuse me, it's only because HBCUs aren't in the lexicon of sports like that for your traditional fan, that stuff like that doesn't get ingrained in your mind to want to watch them on a regular basis, even blindly. So that's why that happens, and that's why it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, move from that to the other end of the college basketball spectrum. March Madness is here, boys and girls. This is, I mean, the NCAA tournament is usually unpredictable anyway. If you've been picking brackets as long as we have, torn up brackets as many times as we have. But this year, man, with the pandemic just ravaging the sport, the season, and to the point where, Duke ended up pulling out, not that Duke would have qualified, but the point is
they took their ball and went home.
They took the ball and went home because they were ravaged. They couldn't play against Florida State in the semifinals of the ACC tournament. Was it the quarterfinals? But anyway, I forgot. Quarterfinals. And speaking of semifinals, UVA didn't even bother to compete because in the semifinals against Georgia Tech, because they were COVID ravaged. And they still are COVID ravaged. Yeah. So, so the question is, will Virginia be able to participate? And if they're not going to participate, Louisville is like the conference foe. Louisville will be the first alternate, apparently. So it's a crazy time when the NCAA tournament has alternates.
Yes,
that's crazy. So Louisville's the first alternate. I don't know who the second or third alternates are, but the point is this is going to be very outside of a couple of teams that I mentioned in a second. This is going to be very, 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 very unpredictable. Probably the most unpredictable year we've had in recent memory. So again, those two teams that I mentioned that are not going to be so unpredictable just lost some train of thought. I saw Philadelphia just hit a last second shot at going to overtime. It was pretty too. Gonzaga and Illinois. Those are my only two surest things. Because Gonzaga, they're nice. They've beaten nice teams all season long. I mean, this is what's not to like about Gonzaga. I mean, it's they've beaten like Kansas. They beat Kansas down. They blew out UVA. I mean, they beat down great teams outside of conference. And so I don't. And looking at their region right quick, I mean, they potentially face either Oklahoma or Missouri in the second round. They'll beat Creighton or UVA in the Sweet 16 if either team gets that far. The toughest team they have in the region is Iowa, even though Kansas is a 3 seed in the region. But Gonzaga is just that much better than everybody else. Same with Illinois. Looking in the Midwest region, I mean, they got maybe Georgia Tech in the second round. But I will say this will be interesting, man, to keep your eye on. Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham. Remember that name. If those of you don't know, he's a freshman for Oklahoma State. He can play the point, but I think he's listed as a shooting guard. He's probably the hands down number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. So this comes for you all to keep your eye on. This young man, Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State, could do it all. Shoot, pass, dribble. Again, I think he's 6'8", and he can play the point.
Oh, and then he can play the point?
Yeah, he can play the point, but he's listed as a shooting guard, but he can easily play the point. So basically, outside of Oklahoma State in that region with Illinois, I don't see anybody else challenging Illinois. And, moving to the East, I know Michigan's the 1 seed. I love me some Juwan Howard. I'm not so sure about them, though, because they potentially will face Florida State in the Sweet 16. Florida State's deep. They play defense, and they're hungry. Not hungry, but Hongry, hungry. And also this one team that you wouldn't think was a basketball school making noise in the tournament, about to make some noise, or been making noise all season, is Alabama basketball.
Yeah.
Those boys are nice. They are nice. So again, it's so wide open, but keep your eye on them. But last but not least, moving to the South, no Baylor's the top seed in the Southern region. They potentially play the Tar Heels in the second round. Maybe Purdue in the Sweet 16 or Villanova in the Sweet 16. But one team to watch out for in the Southern region is Arkansas. They got this young man. I'm going to pull up his name right quick. I can't find his name anywhere. But the point is that he's very Moses Moody, the freshman of the year. 17 points a game, almost 6 rebounds a game. He's a 6'6" guard, shoots almost 38% from 3. But freshman of the year, he may be a one and done. But Moses Moody, he's the real deal. So it's wide open. Outside of Gonzaga and Illinois, it's wide as open. But my Final Four. Well, before I get to my Final Four, I'll let you give your thoughts on this as far as the brackets go and your teams to watch and whatnot. I'll let you go right quick.
Well, I mean, I don't have necessarily any huge surprises. I've been poking my head in and out of college basketball for the most part this year, but the pattern that I did notice was that a lot of these programs that had a lot of experience have been the ones that have been successful.
Right.
And
seniors.
Yeah, a lot of juniors, a lot of seniors, those have been the programs that have been successful. And that's, of course, can be directed right back to COVID and how that has affected those programs that haven't had a lot of time to play with one another.
Right.
You've seen a lot of these schools either have extremely slow starts or not get rolling at all. See Duke, right?
Yep,
so that's
Duke.
why. Yeah, so that's why we're in the situation that we're in right now. But to your point, I do have a couple of surprises, maybe in like first or second round wins, that you may want to go ahead and keep out for that you haven't named before, that you haven't named yet. One of those teams, especially in the South, is Winthrop. With Villanova dealing with a lot of injuries.
Winthrop is good.
With them coming up there 23-1. I know they really haven't played anyone outside of their conference too tough, but like I said before, Villanova is dealing with injuries. It's a possibility that Winthrop could come through and surprise them in that situation. Another surprise team I have coming out of the Midwest, I have Syracuse actually upsetting San Diego State in the first round.
Yeah, I do too. Syracuse, they turn up every tournament.
Yeah. So I'm looking for them, especially in their style of basketball where they stretch the floor and them playing 2-3 defense.
Zone, yeah.
That has been known to give teams fits.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be too shocked if that happens again this year either, right?
Right.
So the other surprise I got going on in the West, once again, I have VCU beating Oregon in the first round, and like I said, I have VCU winning in their first round matchup, and in the East, I'm looking at Georgetown to make some noise the first couple of rounds.
That's a good story. That's a good story. I got some thoughts on them in a moment. That's a great story, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, just to touch on them real quick, I kind of jokingly said, well, it was no joke. It's actually a lot of truth in that statement I made before on Sleazy Sports, was that Georgetown is probably playing for Pat Ewing's career as a coach there in this tournament. And if they don't have a good run in that tournament, Pat might be out because he's had a couple of bad years consecutively, including this past one.
Yeah.
But they were able to go ahead and go on a good string this year in the tournament, win it. It did help a lot that Villanova did have to deal with the injuries, but they did beat the number 2 seed in the finals. So if they can carry on that momentum into the tournament.
Blew them out. Blew Creighton
They did.
Out.
Yeah. They got out from the beginning and never looked back. So, if they can carry that momentum into the tournament, they're going to be a lot to deal with as well in the tournament.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Going back to Georgetown for a minute, I never cheered loudly for a man as I did for Ewing. I watched that, the first half. I watched the first half of that game with Creighton. And even though they had a sparse crowd in Madison Square Garden, you can feel that synergy that Georgetown was feeling. When you get going, you start feeling yourself, you start to feel good, all of a sudden things started happening. They started making the shots. They were shutting down Creighton on that, and Creighton got a little tight. But you can see how infectious it was. Like, I remember one sequence, Georgetown knocked the ball out of bounds on the great defensive play, even though Creighton kept possession. You saw the Georgetown Hoyas players on the court go, yes, they were feeling themselves. They were getting pumped over stuff. This is doing their run. That they made that run late in the first half. And of course, as they said, the rest is history. They beat them 73-48, something like that. They blew them out. Blew out Creighton. And Creighton's a good team.
Yeah.
They're not chopped liver, and Georgetown blew those boys out. So it's interesting, especially like given that that John Thompson passed last year, which I thought was that very neat deal. I think Patrick Ewing dedicated that win to John Thompson.
Not just that, his hiring, the anniversary of his hiring, the 49th anniversary of his hiring was on that Sunday that they won the tournament. Yeah.
Yes. So
or that Saturday that they won the tournament.
It's all about the basketball gods, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So it's interesting to see how Patrick Ewing does in the tournament. I agree with you. This buys him at least another year.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was worried for Patrick Ewing before the tournament.
If they can get them a deep run, if they can somehow pull off a Sweet 16 run, that's another year added on to that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because remember, he lost a transfer, a white kid to he was damn good too. Lost him to Texas Tech. I forget the young man's name, but I was like, well, damn, he had guys wanting to transfer out, including that same young man I just mentioned earlier. I forget his name, who's balling at Texas Tech right now. I'm like, well, I got worried for him. I got worried for Ewing because maybe he has old school tactics. Maybe he's not connected with these young men he's coaching. That's huge. And so for him to weather that storm, if you will, and get to the tournament, NCAA tournament, that's good.
He also had a young man that was dealing with legal issues last year.
Yeah.
That ended up leaving the program. So he's been dealing with it.
So I'm gonna give you my final four right quick.
Okay.
Again, I even though all that analysis that we both shared, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I have, you're gonna laugh at a couple of these, but I have Gonzaga, Illinois, Arkansas, and Florida State. I have Florida State beating Michigan in the Sweet 16 in the East Region.
East Region, yeah.
And beating Alabama to get to the Final Four. That's just my shot in the dark pick. Again, I've seen Florida State play a few times. I hadn't really seen Alabama, but I've kept an eye on them. Alabama's great. Alabama it's going to come down to me between Alabama and Florida State to come out this region. I think as much as I love Juwan Howard, Michigan State didn't look all that great in the Big Ten tournament, and I think it's going to carry over. So, that's what I think. So that's my Final Four, and I have Gonzaga beating Illinois in the final.
Wow, very interesting, right? So I also have Gonzaga. Now coming out of the East, I actually have Alabama. Right?
Yeah. Hey, either way, you could go either way. Alabama, I'm not mad at that pick. I mean, they're a damn good team.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then the thing was, I didn't want to go too chalky. That's why I took Alabama coming out of that region. With that said, I'm taking Arkansas to come out of the South. And I have, I'm trying to remember, did I take Houston to come out of or was it, no, it's West Virginia. I have West Virginia to come out of the Midwest.
Yeah. So wait a minute. You said to come out of the Midwest. You had West Virginia. Come out of the Midwest. Wow.
Yeah, West Virginia coming out of the Midwest.
Bob Huggins, Huggy Bear. Yeah, Huggy Bear.
Beating Illinois in the finals of that region, with Gonzaga winning the title.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I must say though, keep an eye on Clemson. Clemson's in that bracket. Clemson is on the same side of the bracket as West Virginia. I think Clemson beat Alabama during the regular season. They've beaten some good teams out of conference.
They have. You know what concerns me? 7-10 matchups concern me.
Yeah.
And God, it would almost I would be too afraid not to pick any 10 matchups or 10 upsets in those matchups. So yeah, that was one of those matchups where I ended up taking a 10 over 7.
Yeah. All right. So who you have winning it all? I mean, who's in your final? Who you have winning it all?
Well, in my final, I have Gonzaga and Gonzaga and West Virginia, with Gonzaga winning it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we both like Gonzaga. Gonzaga is undefeated. They're a great team. I don't see anybody really, maybe outside of Iowa, giving them a run. I really don't. In Gonzaga's region, the West region, I don't see anybody giving them a run. Now watch a huge upset happen. Watch, I don't know, 13th seed Ohio make a run past UVA, Creighton, or Santa Barbara and upsetting Gonzaga. Watch some shit like that happen.
That's all possible. It's all possible because we don't know anything about anyone because no one got a opportunity to play outside of their conference. Right. A lot. So, yeah, we really can't gauge them against anybody else because they've all played the majority of their games within conference.
Right. So who the hell knows at this point? But anyway, should be one interesting tournament, especially with all the games being played, every game because of COVID, played in the Indianapolis metro area or the state of Indiana, one of those two. I know it's obviously the state of Indiana, but I think it's all going to be in the metro Indianapolis area, I think. So that's going to be very, very, very different.
I believe that it is, yeah.
And that's crazy. COVID's crazy. It's COVID's made things crazy. So anyway, one more thing. Before we enter the random shit segment, I almost forgot Women's History Month. My bad on that. I got my two. And again, just to explain again, for those of you out there who just tuning in, this podcast for the first time, similar to what we did for Black History Month, we like we're going to touch on women's history moments in sports throughout Women's History Month, this month of March. And we're going to touch upon little known female athletes that made marks in the world of sports. So I'm going to give you my two right quick. If you have one or two, that's cool too, Dwayne. So I'm gonna start with mine. The first one is Manon Rhéaume.
Okay.
Last name spelled R-H-E with an accent, A-U-M-E. She's a French person. So Manon Rhéaume. So who is she, you might ask? Well, she was an ice hockey. Well, she is an ice hockey player. So basically, basically in 1992, at the age of 20, this is when she started making a name of herself as far as groundbreaking pioneer in women's sports. In September of that year, Manon became the first woman to play for any of the four major North American sports leagues.
Wow.
Where she suited up for the Tampa Bay Lightning, albeit in the preseason game, spending one period as a goalie. That was in 1992. So basically, even though this happened in 1992, it's more things happen. Like in 1984, she's from Quebec, became the first female goaltender for a boys team as a child at the Quebec International Pee Wee Hockey Tournament. So basically, before she played for the Lightning, she was the first woman to play in a men's major junior hockey tournament. Okay? So even though she didn't make the team, she didn't make the Lightning team final roster in 1992, it was still a cool moment. Because again, even though it was a preseason game, the Tampa Bay Lightning preseason game, she spent one period as a goalie, which is pretty cool. And this is 1992. So that's what she did. But she retired from professional hockey in 1997, even though she won silver for Canada in the 1998 Winter Olympics. Right. So she basically, even though she retired technically in 1997, she stuck around and won silver in the 1998 Winter Olympics for Canada. So basically, she started coaching at the college and kids level, made a return to the ice for the IHL in 2008 and 2009, but she hasn't played since. So no woman has ever played an NHL game since Manon has, but she still, that the legacy lives on. So that's Manon Rhéaume, hockey. And the second person is Lyn St. James. Who is Lyn St. James, you might ask? Well, she made history on the racetrack. So basically in 1992, she became the second of just 9 women to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 and was the first woman to ever win the Indy's 500's Rookie of the Year award at 45 years of age. So basically, it's like she learned how to drive a car at 15. Her mom taught her. And she was only 17 when she was challenged to a race after criticizing a driver who had lost in the heat. So basically, she was told, like, if you could do better, do it. And she did. So in 1974, she started competing in the Sports Car Club of America races in Florida. And, you know, she ended up eventually won regional championships in 1976 and 1977. She turned pro in 1979, and by 1981, Ford started to sponsor her racing career. And so she won her first race for Ford in 1985. And so that same year, she hit 200 miles per hour on the racetrack, being the first woman to ever break that barrier on the oval. And she later set a speed record at Talladega in 1988.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So she continued racing until retiring at the age of 53. So she's now, like, she started public speaking. She's now an ambassador for the racing as a sport and is working nonstop to get more women involved. So that is Lyn St. James. That concludes this week, my contribution this week for women's history in sports.
Okay. Well, here are my two.
Okay.
All right. Debuting at the age of 18, Ethel Johnson became the first African-American women wrestler. A fan favorite, Johnson was billed as the biggest attraction to hit girls wrestling since girls wrestling began. During her 24-year career in wrestling, Johnson would wrestle for the likes of the National Wrestling Alliance, or the NWA, the Capital Wrestling Corporation, the American Wrestling Association, or the AWA, and Stu Hart's Big Time Wrestling. And for those who aren't familiar, Stu Hart, well-known pro wrestler in his own right, but is also the daddy of Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart, and the father-in-law to Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and the grandfather to current professional women's wrestler Natalya. So Johnson was so good, he got the eye of Stu Hart for him to say, hey, she needs to come wrestle for me. Wow. That's Ethel Johnson.
Hart Foundation, for people who don't know. That's the Hart Foundation.
The Hart Foundation
WWF.
is one of the greatest wrestling tag teams of all time.
Yep.
And also Bret the Hitman Hart, one of the greatest singles wrestler of all time. And some say his daddy's better, but I digress. My second person is Clarissa Shields.
Yes.
So for those who are unfamiliar, I was made familiar with this young lady just about a week or two ago. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist in boxing, and is now the two-division undisputed champion, and is ESPN's new #1 women's pound-for-pound fighter of all currently, right?
Right.
So why is she history? Shields unified all 4 junior middleweight championships on March the 6th, after already collecting all 4 titles in the middleweight division. So she went down a division and collected all 4 belts in that division.
That's crazy.
And she won all of the middleweight division titles in 2019, becoming the first fighter, female or male, to be undisputed champion in 2 weight classes in the modern era.
Wow. Clarissa Shields, y'all. Isn't she supposed to have a big fight coming up soon, or is the talks of a big fight?
Well, she's having talks, because remember, she just fought a couple of weeks ago and won and unified the junior middleweight title.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's been conversation of her potentially fighting Layla Ali, but of course, Carissa's like, well, because of course there are a lot of people who want to question her greatness, and of course, Layla was the best of her era, and Layla hasn't boxed in a while.
She's our age.
But yes. But
looks good,
Clarissa,
though.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she does.
But you know, Clarissa handled it like someone in her 20s would.
Mm-hmm.
She basically said that, you know, Layla is a great fighter, but she's currently retired and has been for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the best of my current era.
Right.
And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, yeah.
That's interesting. That's great. So that leads us to our random shit segment, or the award-winning narratives random shit segment. I don't have anything in my mind right now. I know that free agency is going on.
Yeah.
No, not too many movies and shakers going on. I know for sure that Chicago blew it, like missed a chance to get Russell Wilson, so they hired the immortal, what's the name of that redhead quarterback?
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton. So Bears fans everywhere was like, God damn it, we can't get Russell Wilson now. But yeah, I don't have much to add other than little free agency news here and there, but it won't be interesting. It won't be interesting unless a big domino falls.
Well, there haven't been a lot of huge names, but there have been some interesting moves. The New England Patriots have made a ton of moves.
Yeah, tight ends.
Of course.
Yes,
you know, the tight end spot by signing Smith and Hunter. What's his last name?
Hunter Henry.
Yeah, so with them two signed and them also bringing back
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton's going to be interesting to see how that offense looks. I guess that Bill Belichick believes that Cam is healthy this year, which is why he brought him back. And they also signed that defensive end, Jerron from Baltimore. Yeah. So they got another addition on the defensive side of the ball, as well as the guys that he lost due to COVID to come back. Yeah. So New England might be the surprise team in the AFC this year if they can go ahead and gel quickly. And then, of course, Tyrod Taylor is now in Houston. There are a lot of people scratching their heads about that, trying to figure out why was that move made if they still have Deshaun Watson. Yeah. You know, even though there hasn't been much said on his front in terms of whether or not he's going to be traded out of there or not. And then, of course, Drew Brees has retired, which led to Jameis Winston being re-signed by the New Orleans Saints. It looks like he's going to be leading that franchise come this fall. And then, of course, the one and only Ryan Fitzpatrick is coming to DC.
His ninth team, right? Isn't that his ninth team?
So this is where it gets very interesting, right? So this will be his ninth team, and this will be the Washington football team's ninth quarterback since losing Kirk Cousins.
That's fine.
So yeah, if you're in the numbers and numerology, hey, it's very interesting that's going to be the case. Yeah. So yes, for me, I'm going to be singing 24 karat Fitzmagic in the air until he starts failing me here. So yeah, just get ready. It's going to happen until that Bama start losing, and we got to fight. So with that, and then Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver out of
Carolina, he's in Washington now. Signing Washington,
will be coming to Washington as well on a 3-year deal. So that's going to be interesting to see how that wide receiving core looks with Fitzpatrick, or maybe even Tyler Heineke, or
quarterback in the draft
at the helm, and then depending upon who they draft as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So that's football. On the HBCU front, real quick, I've talked about how there were some HBCU representatives at the NCAA Indoor Track Championships last week, and A&T performed extremely well. They had 10 guys on the men's side and a young lady on the women's side. Unfortunately, the young lady, I think she may have finished 7th in the 200 meters, but that makes her 7th in the nation. Right. So congratulations to her. Shout out to Kira. Wow. Man, her name escapes me that quickly. God, because I feel bad. I'm sorry, Kiera. But yeah, she ran the 60 meters for Norfolk State and finished 3rd. So she came in 3rd nationally in her event. But the focus, of course, was on A&T's men's track, which ended up finishing 5th as a team nationally with 30 points. And that was because, they had guys finish in the finals in their respective events. But Rashad Ross, the sophomore phenom, finished second. Oh my God. That's the thing. Rashad Ross has not lost a race this entire season. He may have lost due to time, but he has yet to lose a race this year. And he ended up coming in second in the 400. And Ross was also part of the 4x400 relay, which are national champions. So A&T's 4x4 men's relay national champions for the 2021 indoor champion, well, the indoor season.
Aggie pride, man. I saw Aggie that. I saw that over the weekend. Can't be any more proud of. So they have it. So
Kiera Grant, that is her name.
That's her name. You got to name her. You got to name. You got to name America. He got her name.
I knew it was gonna have. I had a brain fart and forgot it. It's Kiera Grant. So yes, Aggie Pride on St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
Don't ask me how I got this shirt. Just know that I did. With the little.
As long as you got it legally. As long as you got it legally.
Oh, it's kind of legal, I guess.
Anyway, well, we wrap it up so you don't get in trouble. Thank y'all for tuning into the Klown Hour podcast. Please check out my man, Dwayne Nash, on the Yard Session HCU Sports, the rest of all things HCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Check out his great work on herosports.com. Reps about all things. Yes.
And this week, I'm actually in the process of finishing up tonight. Hopefully it gets published by the end of this week. I will be having my second ever piece published on hbcusports.com. So I'm also continuing my work with them. So look for that. I'll make sure to go ahead and post it on your page when that article is done.
Please do. Please. And share it on Facebook. We'll definitely We'll definitely do that. And also, before you leave, two things. Well, three things. Wash your hands. And if you can't wash your hands, at least get your ass vaccinated. We have vaccines that like opening up to wider age groups. In the state of Ohio, here where I live, they open up to people 40 and up, regardless of medical conditions. I've signed up for this coming Friday. So yay. And also, again, just still wash your hands, wear your masks, be careful if you have to leave the house for some reason. Also, please get the merch.
Get the merch.
CaffePress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. As I said earlier, the address, the link will be in the description tomorrow on YouTube. And also, please subscribe. Speaking of YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We've been getting some traction lately. I'm pretty happy about that. I know D-Nice is happy about that. But hit the subscribe button as you get alerts from when we have new podcasts, whenever we have new segments of the podcast, or I'm just rambling on some random shit on sports. Either way, you'll be happy. You'll be glad that you did. Please share your family and friends. So until then, until next week, be safe out there. Stay warm, stay sane, and stay healthy. Peace out.